I want to tell you about two different people. The first has never had a structured fitness program, has never run more than he had to, has never stood at a starting line, has Asperger's and ADHD, which means that the kind of ambiguous, multi-step, socially complex environment that most gyms and most fitness programs represent is, without the right support, genuinely difficult to navigate. Has a goal, strength, endurance, confidence, but no clear path from where he is to any of those things. The second person trains for half marathons, completes obstacle events, has visible muscle tone, carries himself with a confidence that if you knew him before, you'd immediately notice, has an athletic identity, not as a performance, not as something he's working towards, but as something he is. These two people are the same person, and his name is Thomas. The distance between them is 16 weeks. And this video is about what happened in those 16 weeks and what it means for anyone who's currently sitting where Thomas was sitting at the start and wonders whether where he ended up is even available to them. I'm Loz Antonenko, health and performance coach, and Thomas's story is the 12th case study in this series, and I've saved it for last because I think it captures something that runs underneath every single one of them. Every person in this series started with a version of the same belief that what they wanted from their body was not quite available to them. The belief was different for every single one of them. Too old, too injured, too neurodivergent, too disabled, far from where they needed to be, but the structure was the same. The gap between the person they were and the person they wanted to be. And a quiet, very quiet uncertainty about whether that gap was actually crossable. In every case, the gap was crossable. Thomas's story is the most complete version of that crossing because the starting point was 0 and the destination was athlete, and the distance was 16 weeks. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why having a real specific performance-based goal, a half marathon, an obstacle event, something with a date and a distance, produces a fundamentally different quality of commitment than a general goal like getting fitter. How someone with both Asperger's and ADHD requires a specific dual approach and why getting it right unlocked results that a generic program just couldn't have produced, and how the athlete identity actually forms, the specific process by which someone who has never thought of themselves as an athlete becomes one. Thomas's starting point and what he brought. 3 pillars: the goal before the program, dual neurodivergence, and the athlete identity. Full 16-week timeline and results, and what this means for anyone watching who has a goal they're not sure is actually available to them. Let's go. Thomas came to me with very little in the way of structured fitness experience. Not a modest base, essentially no base. He'd moved through his life without any sort of training practice, without a program, without the accumulated experience of progressive physical challenge that most people in the fitness space take for granted as some sort of starting point. He had something more valuable, a very clear sense of what he wanted. He wanted strength. Sure. He wanted endurance. Okay. He wanted confidence, and underneath all of those specific wants was something larger. He wanted to become someone different. Not in his personality or his identity in the broad sense though, but in his actual relationship with his physical self. He wanted to become the kind of person who did hard physical things and was actually capable of doing those hard physical things. Now, he also had Asperger's and ADHD, and I want to address both because they created a specific combination of needs that shaped every element of the program design. The Asperger's, it created the same need for clarity and explicit structure that we worked with in Nathan's program. Ambiguous environments, implicit rules, unspoken expectations, all of these created friction that, without the right coaching response, could become some sort of barrier. The solution, again, was structure delivered as clearly and completely as possible. Written plans, explicit cues, specific feedback, absolutely no assumptions about prior knowledge. The ADHD, it added a different layer. Where Asperger's creates difficulty with ambiguity and unpredictability, ADHD, well, it creates difficulty with sustained attention on tasks that don't have immediate feedback, with the consistency of routine and specifically the kind of program hopping that happens when a new interest overtakes an existing one. The fitness landscape, endless new programs, endless new approaches, endless new content is practically designed to activate ADHD program hopping. Thomas needed a structure that would hold his attention, provide consistent feedback, and be compelling enough to compete with the novelty pull that ADHD brings. The solution to the ADHD piece was, in largest part, the actual goal itself. Thomas hadn't built a fitness practice before, not because he lacked the desire. I mean, he had the desire very clearly, but he hadn't built it because the standard offerings in fitness, i.e. the gym membership without direction, the app-based program without accountability, the general advice to, move more and eat well, it didn't provide the specific structure that a person with Asperger's and ADHD needs in order to actually follow them. Generic fitness content is built for a specific kind of attention and a specific kind of relationship with ambiguity. I mean, it assumes you can fill the gaps, right? Decide what to do when the program is vague, maintain motivation through periods when feedback is delayed, navigate the gym environment without explicit instruction. These assumptions exclude a significant portion of the population who would thrive with the right structure but are invisible to content that doesn't provide it. Thomas was one of those people. Now, he didn't need a different goal, he just needed a different delivery system for actually reaching it. One of the most important things happened in Thomas's early conversations with me, and it was the translation of his vague goals into specific, concrete, date-stamped targets. I want endurance. It became train for a half marathon, a real race, a specific distance, a date that exists in the calendar, an event that will happen whether or not he has actually prepared for it. I want to do hard physical things. It became complete an obstacle events, mud, physical challenge, a course designed to test what your body can do, something with a start and a finish and a medal at the end. I want visible strength became a structured strength and muscle building protocol running alongside the endurance work with measurable outputs tracked weekly. The concreteness of these targets, it wasn't incidental. For someone with ADHD, a vague goal is a goal that will eventually lose the competition with the next most interesting thing. A specific goal, with a date, a location, a distance, a thing that will happen in the real world regardless of whether you're ready for it, is a completely different type of motivational anchor. It doesn't compete with novelty, it actually generates its own urgency. Now, the half marathon, it wasn't just a goal, it was the structure that held everything else in place. I want to make a specific argument about goals because I think it's one of the most practically useful ideas in this video, and it applies to a much wider audience than Thomas specifically. Now, there is a meaningful difference between a health goal and a performance goal. Now, a health goal is orientated towards a state. I want to be healthier, fitter, stronger, leaner, etc. A performance goal is orientated towards an event. I want to compete in a half marathon, finish an obstacle course, lift a specific weight, compete in a specific event. Now, both are legitimate, but they do produce very different qualities of commitment, and the difference is especially pronounced for someone who has ADHD. A health goal has no deadline. The state it describes is always somewhere in the future, and because it's always in the future, the urgency required to prioritize it today over the many other things competing for today's attention is always available for negotiation. There's always a tomorrow that the goal can be deferred to. A performance goal, it has a date. The event, it exists. It doesn't move because you're not ready. The half marathon happens on the day it's scheduled, and the questions of whether you're prepared is answered on that day in front of other people with your body as an instrument. That specificity creates a different kind of motivation, one that doesn't require daily regeneration from internal willpower. The event is doing the motivational work. The training is the preparation for something real, not the pursuit of something abstract. For Thomas, selecting the half marathon and the obstacle event as targets early in the program was not just goal setting. It was the primary structural intervention. Everything that followed, the training, the nutrition, the weekly rhythm, was preparation for those specific events. And that specificity held his engagement in a way that a general get fitter goal just couldn't have. Once the goals were concrete, the program could be built backwards from them. A half marathon requires a specific cardiovascular and musculoskeletal base. You need to be able to run for a sustained period at a pace you can maintain without injury. Building that base from zero requires a progressive increase in running volume and duration that follows a specific logic. Too fast an increase, it produces injury. Too slow, well, it produces insufficient preparation. An obstacle event requires a different combination of capabilities. The run is shorter, it's more intense, but the obstacles, they do demand upper body strength, grip, coordination, and the ability to keep going when something is actually just really hard. And the training had to develop all of these simultaneously. The strength and muscle building goal, it ran alongside both endurance objectives, not as a separate program, but as an integrated component. The resistance training built the leg and strength and core stability that made running more efficient and also reduced injury risk. The upper body work built the capability required for the obstacle course. And the progressive loading, it produced the visible muscle tone that was part of Thomas's overall vision for himself. So 3 goals, 1 integrated program designed so that every training session was contributing to multiple outcomes simultaneously. The integration is really important for anyone with ADHD because a fragmented program with separate cardio days and lifting days and skill days, well, it just creates way too many moving parts to track and way too many opportunities for one single element to drop off. Integration means every session is doing real work toward the goals that matter. The program, it feels coherent, not scattered, and coherence for Thomas with ADHD was the difference between sustained engagement and just complete drift. Before any of the training could produce its results, the nutritional foundation had to be in place, and for Thomas, as for every client, that meant identifying and addressing the handbrake habits that were working against his goals. The most significant handbrake habits for Thomas were around eating structure. Inconsistent meal timing, the pattern, common in ADHD, of forgetting to eat during high engagement periods and then overeating reactively afterwards. Yeah? Insufficient protein for the muscle building goal because most of his eating was carbohydrate heavy, which supported energy in the short term but didn't provide the amino acids required for muscle protein synthesis. And so we installed structured eating, not rigid or obsessive, but clear and consistent. A meal at roughly the same times each day, each one anchored by a meaningful protein source. The structure, well, it served 2 purposes. It solved the nutritional problem and it provided a daily routine rhythm that the ADHD brain can use as an anchor point. Regular meal times create predictable structure in the day, and predictable structure for Thomas was a resource. Hydration, chronically insufficient, as it often is in people who are highly absorbed in tasks and don't notice the signals their body is sending them. Address simply though. Water with every meal, and target for the day that was specific enough to track. Now, these weren't dramatic changes, no. They were the unglamorous foundations without which the training would have basically underperformed. Getting them in place first before intensifying the training load was the right order of operations. Thomas has both Asperger's and ADHD, and I want to address this combination specifically because the 2 conditions interact in ways that create a distinctive coaching challenge and a distinctive coaching opportunity. Asperger's, as I described in Nathan's case study, creates a need for explicit structure, predictability, and clear expectations. The solution is detailed planning, advanced communication, specific feedback, and consistent routine. ADHD, it creates a need for novelty, immediate feedback, meaningful goals, and sufficient stimulation to sustain engagement. The solution is compelling targets, varied enough sessions to prevent boredom, cleared progress tracking, and regular accountability touch points. Here's the tension. The Asperger's wants consistency and predictability, the same structure, the same routine, the same approach. The ADHD wants novelty and stimulation, new challenges, variety, escalating interests. Now, the solution is not to choose between them. It's actually to build a program where the structure is consistent and the content is progressively novel. The same session format, warm-at, primary work, accessory work, cool down, every time, providing the predictable architecture that Asperger's needs. Within that consistent structure, progressively harder challenges, new movement combinations introduced at the right pace, increasing training loads that provide the escalating novelty and stimulation the ADHD needs to stay engaged. Consistent structure, progressive novelty, same container, different content week by week. This is the design solution to dual neurodivergence in a fitness context. The specific ADHD risk I was most alert to with Thomas was program hopping. The pattern where our new fitness approach or new content captures attention, the current program gets dropped, and the new thing gets started with high enthusiasm before that too is eventually displaced. This pattern, it's not a character flaw. It's the predictable output of a brain that is strongly driven towards novelty and that processes the early stages of a new thing as highly stimulating. The problem isn't the interest, it's actually the lack of completion that accumulates across years of start but not quite finished things. The primary tool against program hopping is accountability. Specifically, regular scheduled check-ins with a real person who is tracking real progress and who the client has a commitment to. The commitment to the coaching relationship creates friction against dropping out, not because the client's trapped though, but because the relationship is a real thing that would require a real conversation to end. Most program hopping happens in the absence of that friction, in the privacy of a solo relationship with an app or a plan that doesn't notice when you actually stop. With Thomas, we built weekly check-ins into the program structure, as well as monthly check-ins, not optional, scheduled, expected, built into the rhythm of the week. And at each check-in, what the numbers showed, what was working, what needed adjustment, and the specific plan for the following week. The check-in closed each week and then opened the next one. There was no gap in which drift could establish itself. The performance goal, the half marathon, the obstacle event, also served as an anti-hopping mechanism. The new fitness program can always be started instead, right? A race that's already registered and paid for is really much harder to walk away from. And so the event created a commitment that the internal motivation alone might not have sustained through the inevitable mid-program dip in novelty. The communication approach with Thomas combined the explicitness required by the Asperger's with the responsiveness and engagement required by the ADHD. Sessions planned and shared in writing in advance, not just the exercises, the rationale. Why this session? Why these movements? Why this order? Why this load? Thomas's intelligence and curiosity meant he did engage more fully with a program he actually understood than one he was simply told to follow. Feedback, immediate, specific, and honest. When a movement was right, he was told exactly why it was right. When it needed adjustment, the specific adjustment, it was named. No vague encouragement, information. Thomas used information, he didn't need to be cheered. Progress tracked in concrete, visible numbers. Running distance, training loads, event completion, all of it tracked, all of it visible to Thomas on an ongoing basis. For ADHD, visible progress is motivational fuel. If the numbers are just in someone's head, they do fade. If they're written down and reviewed regularly, well, they compound. And variety built into the structure in the right way. The obstacle event training, it introduced movements and challenges that the standard program didn't include. Grip work, crawling patterns, obstacle-specific conditioning. These were new and engaging without disrupting the foundational structure. The novelty was bounded by the architecture. Thomas's case study is an identity shift case. And I want to be specific about what that means, because identity shift is a phrase that can be used so broadly it actually loses its meaning. An identity shift, in the sense that I mean it here, is a change in how someone answers the question, who are you? Not in their name or their job or their relationships, but in the core self-description. The story they tell about themselves, basically, without thinking about it. Before the 16 weeks, Thomas's answer to the implied question, are you an athlete, was no. Not because he'd been told that, but because there was literally no evidence in his life that pointed to yes. I mean, he didn't train, he didn't compete, he didn't have performance goals. The category of athlete, it just simply didn't apply to him in any self-description that he would have naturally used. After the 16 weeks, the answer is different, not because someone told him he was an athlete, but because he has done the things that athletes do. He's trained consistently over a sustained period. I mean, he's stood at a starting line, he's crossed a finish line, he's completed an obstacle event, and the evidence now exists. Identity doesn't shift through affirmation, it shifts through accumulated evidence. The evidence changes the self-description, not the other way around. You become an athlete by doing athlete things, not by deciding to feel like one. I want to walk through the specific experiences that built Thomas's athletic identity because I think the mechanism is instructive. The first running milestone. Early in the program, Thomas completed a continuous run of a distance that he wouldn't have believed he could complete before we actually started. Not the half marathon distance, I mean that was weeks away, a shorter distance, but one that required genuine endurance from a starting point of near zero. The completion of that run was evidence. Not symbolic evidence, real evidence that his body could do something it hadn't actually been able to do before. That first obstacle event. Now, there's something specific about arriving at an obstacle event as a participant, not as a spectator, not as someone who's thinking about entering next time, but as someone who is there, who is trained for this, who is about to do it. Thomas crossed the finish line of his first obstacle event. That crossing is a data point about who he is, and it isn't erasable. He completed an obstacle event. Now that is now a fact about Thomas. The visible muscle. The changes in Thomas's body composition, the visible muscle tone that developed through the integrated strength work, were a daily physical reminder of the training. Every time he noticed the change in how he looked and moved, it reinforced the new self-description because his body, it was evidence. The confidence in the gym. As with Nathan, the gym environment that had been unfamiliar and potentially aversive became, well, through the accumulation of hundreds of sessions, a place of demonstrated competence. Thomas knew what to do when he was there. He could help someone else who didn't, and he belonged. Each of these experiences is a brick in the construction of the athlete identity. None of them alone is sufficient, but together, they're overwhelming. The old self-description, it doesn't survive the weight of all of that evidence. I said in Nathan's case study that competence is the source of confidence. Thomas's story is the same argument, but from a different angle. The confidence Thomas carries at the end of the 16 weeks isn't the product of positive self-talk or someone convincing him that he's capable or of a mindset shift that happened before the physical work. It's the natural output of having done hard things repeatedly and finding that he was equal to them. Confidence built this way is different from confidence that is constructed through affirmation. Affirmation-based confidence, it's always vulnerable to the next piece of evidence that contradicts it. Evidence-based confidence, it's self-reinforcing because evidence accumulates rather than decays. And every completed run, it adds to it. Every finished obstacle event adds to it. Every heavy load, it adds to it. And this is why the program produced not just physical results, but a changed person. The physical results and the confidence aren't separate outcomes of the same program. The physical results are the mechanism by which the confidence is produced, and you can't have one without the other. Thomas didn't build confidence and then become an athlete. He became an athlete and then had the confidence. The order matters. The doing comes first. Here's what 16 weeks looked like for Thomas. Weeks 1 and 2, foundation and orientation. The session structure established. Same format every time, shared in writing in advance. Nutritional handbrake habits identified. Eating structure installed. Protein at every meal. Hydration baseline set. Initial running assessment. Where is Thomas starting from in terms of the distance and duration that he can sustain continuously? Initial strength assessment across the primary movement patterns. The goal is clear. These 2 weeks are about knowing the starting point precisely so the program can be built correctly. Weeks 3 through 6, endurance-based building. Progressive running volume, adding duration carefully, staying well within the injury threshold whilst building the aerobic capacity. Strength work, running alongside. Compound lower body movements for running efficiency, upper body work for the obstacle event preparation, core stability throughout. Nutrition is holding, body is adapting. The first milestone run completed in this period, a distance that represents real progress from the starting point. Evidence begins to accumulate. Weeks 7 through to 10. Integration and specificity. Obstacle event preparation introduced. Grip training, specific movement patterns, the physical problem solving that obstacle courses require. Running duration continues to increase. Strength loads are progressively consistent. The weekly check-ins are tracking all of it. The visible muscle tone is beginning to emerge. Thomas is training consistently, not pushing through reluctance, but showing up because the program is working and the evidence is mounting. Weeks 11 through to 14. The obstacle event and the build toward half marathon. Thomas completes the obstacle event, crosses the finish line. The identity is consolidating. This is no longer something he's training for. This is something he's done. The running distance continues to extend toward half marathon preparation. Strength work maintained to support the increasing endurance load. Energy and motivation are high. The program is producing real results and Thomas can feel them. Weeks 15 and 16. Consolidation and forward planning. Half marathon training is underway. The 16-week program has built the base from which that training can proceed. Full results reviewed. The program is not complete. It's the foundation for what comes next. Thomas continues training. The identity is set. If you're a complete beginner with Asperger's, ADHD, or both, or if you're someone supporting someone in that situation, here's what the first 4 weeks looks like when the approach is right. Week 1, pick a real goal. Not, I want to be fitter. A specific event, a specific performance target, a specific thing that happens in the real world on a specific date. A 5K run is fine. An obstacle event is fine. A half marathon is fine. Something real, something public, something that will happen whether you're ready or not. Register for it, make it real. Then, get the nutritional foundation in place. One rule first. Protein at every meal. Consistent meal times. These 2 changes alone will produce measurable improvements in energy and body composition within 2 to 3 weeks. Don't add anything else yet. Week 2, start moving, not with a complex program, with a simple progressive running plan that starts at whatever you can currently sustain continuously and adds a small amount each session. 3 sessions per week, short, consistent. The goal is the habit of showing up, not the distance covered. Week 3, add strength work. 2 sessions per week, compound movements, squat, press, pull. Written plan in advance, specific feedback after, track the numbers. Week 4, review. Are you showing up? Are the numbers moving? Is the nutrition holding? If yes to all 3, you're on the right track. The foundation is built and everything that follows is just more of this at progressively higher levels. 4 weeks. A real goal, a nutritional foundation, a running habit, a strength foundation. That's what Thomas built in his first 4 weeks. Everything after that was built on top of it. Let me give you the full picture at the 16-week mark. Endurance progressed from near zero running capability to active half marathon training. The base that didn't exist 16 weeks ago now supports extended running at genuine training volumes. Events. The obstacle course completed, the finish line crossed, the medal earned, a real, public, measurable event done. Strength, visible muscle tone built across 16 weeks of integrated progressive strength work. The body Thomas inhabits now is visibly different from the one he started with. Confidence dramatically increased by Thomas's own description and by every observable measure. He carries himself differently. He engages differently. He is, in the most practical sense, a more capable and more self-assured person. Identity shifted. Thomas is an athlete now, not as an aspiration, not as something he's working toward, but as something he actually is. The evidence is overwhelming and it won't stop accumulating. 0 structured fitness experience, Asperger's and ADHD, 16 weeks, half marathon training, obstacle event completed, visible muscle, a confidence and an identity that will outlast any program. That is what the right structure produces. 3 pillars. 1 transformation that rewrote who Thomas understood himself to be. Pillar 1, the goal before the program. A performance goal, a specific event, a specific date, a specific thing that happens in the real world produces a fundamentally different quality of commitment than a general health aspiration. For Thomas, and especially for his ADHD, the half marathon and the obstacle event weren't just targets. They were the structure that held everything else together. Pillar 2, dual neurodivergence. Consistent structure for Asperger's, progressive novelty and immediate feedback for the ADHD, the same session format every time, progressively more challenging content within that format, accountability through regular check-ins, a real goal to anchor against program hopping. This combination worked because both needs were taken seriously, not traded off against each other. Pillar 3, the athlete identity. Identity doesn't shift through affirmation, it shifts through accumulated evidence. Thomas is an athlete because he's done athlete things repeatedly, consistently in the real world with real results. The confidence followed the doing, because it always does. Thomas is the 12th story in this series, and if you've watched any of the others, Tina, Katrina, Kelly, Marnie, Helen, Juliana, Vicky, Graham, Sean, Nathan, you'll recognise something that runs underneath all of them. In every case, the person who arrived with a version of the belief that what they wanted was not quite available to them. Too complicated, too late, too limited, too inexperienced, too different from the person the fitness industry assumes it's talking to. In every single case, they were wrong. Not because of some inspirational exception to the rules, but because the right approach correctly applied to their specific starting point produced the result that the generic approach has said wasn't possible. The ceiling is always way higher than you think. The question is only whether you have the right structure to reach it. If you take one thing from Thomas's story and from this series of client stories, the person you want to become is available to you, not as a vague aspiration, not as a distant possibility, but as the direct output of the right structure applied consistently over the right amount of time. Thomas became an athlete in 16 weeks. The structure existed. He just needed to be in it. That structure exists for you too. If you've been watching this series and you recognise yourself in any of these stories, the tiredness, the confusion, the sense that something just isn't working, the goal you haven't been able to get traction on, take the Fix Your Mojo quiz. 2 minutes. It identifies exactly what's getting in the way of your specific situation, your handbrake habits, your specific starting point, the first thing to address. Clear, structured, and immediately useful. The quiz link is in the description below. It takes 2 minutes and the results are immediate. And if any video in this series has given someone you know something they needed, please share it. The person who needed to hear Vicky's story or Sean's story or Thomas's story might not have found it yet. Please give them the chance to find it. Thanks so much for watching this series. Every one of these 12 stories is real, and every one of these people did the work, and I'm so incredibly proud of them. See you on the other side of your own story.